Before I explain anything today, I want you to do something for me. Place your right hand flat over your chest, right where your heart is. Hold it there for just a moment. Can you feel it? That steady rhythm, that quiet work happening inside you right now? Your heart has been beating since before you were born. It beats approximately 100,000 times every single day. And here is what most people over 60 do not realize. The moments most likely to put that rhythm in serious danger are not the ones in the middle of a stressful afternoon. They are not the ones after a heavy dinner. They are the very first moments of your morning, the way you wake up, the first things you do, the habits you have followed for so long that you no longer even think of them as choices. Today, I am going to show you exactly why 7 of those ordinary morning habits are silently doing damage to your heart, and what to replace each of them with before tomorrow. I want to start by telling you about Dorothy. Dorothy was 71 years old when she first came to my clinic. She was sharp, energetic, a retired school teacher who still walked her neighborhood every Tuesday and Friday without fail. Her cholesterol numbers were decent. Her blood pressure was managed with one medication. By every standard measure, she was doing the right things. But Dorothy had a routine. Every morning she woke up at 6:15, swung her legs over the side of the bed immediately, reached for her phone on the nightstand, scrolled through the news for about 20 minutes, skipped breakfast because she told me she was never hungry in the morning, and then went straight out the door for her walk, often in the cold, without so much as a glass of water. She thought she was being disciplined. She thought she was being healthy. She had done it that way for years. What she did not know, what no one had ever sat down and explained to her, was that each of those morning choices was placing a quiet, compounding burden on her heart. The morning she ended up in my emergency department, she told me she had felt completely fine. She had felt fine right up until she did not. My name is Dr. James Harlow. I have spent over 25 years in internal medicine with a specific clinical focus on cardiovascular health and preventive care in adults over 60. I have reviewed hundreds of cases like Dorothy's, people who were doing their best, following routines that seemed reasonable, and still ending up in a crisis that the research could have helped prevent. The 7 habits I am about to describe are not exotic or rare. They are things millions of people over 60 do every single morning, and the damage they cause is not dramatic or sudden. It is slow, invisible, and cumulative, which is exactly what makes it so dangerous. If you are watching this channel for the first time, I want you to subscribe right now, because what I publish here is designed specifically for people over 60 who want to understand what the science actually says about their health. Not a simplified version, not a watered-down summary, but the real research, explained in a way you can actually use. Subscribe now, because in my next video I am covering the one breakfast drink that most seniors consume every single morning that is quietly damaging their arterial walls, and you will want to know about that before it is too late. Now, let us talk about those 7 habits, and we are going to start with number 7. Habit number 7, jumping out of bed the moment you wake up. This one surprises people every single time I bring it up. It seems like the responsible thing to do. You are awake, so you get up. No lying around, no wasting time. But what is happening inside your cardiovascular system in the minutes after you wake up is far more complex than most people understand. During sleep, your body keeps blood pressure at its natural nighttime low. Then, as you approach waking, something significant begins to happen. Your body starts producing hormones to prepare you for the day, and blood pressure begins to climb. Research published in the journal Hypertension, the official journal of the American Heart Association, found that blood pressure rises by an average of 14 millimeters of mercury in the first hour after waking. In adults over 60 with hypertension, that surge can reach 40 millimeters of mercury or higher. And the same research established that this morning window, the first 90 minutes after waking, carries the highest rate of heart attacks, strokes, and sudden cardiac events of any time of day. Not the afternoon, not the evening, the morning. When you stand abruptly from a horizontal sleeping position, you force your already surging cardiovascular system to suddenly redirect blood upward against gravity, into a body whose arteries have not yet adjusted to being upright. Blood pressure fluctuates sharply. A 2021 study in the Journal of the American Heart Association confirmed that orthostatic hypotension, the drop in blood pressure that occurs when standing too quickly, is an independent predictor of heart failure and cardiovascular mortality in adults over 60, separate from any other risk factors they may have. The solution requires nothing more than 30 seconds. When you wake up tomorrow, do not swing your legs over immediately. Stay horizontal for 2 or 3 minutes. Breathe. Stretch your arms and legs gently while still lying down. Then sit up slowly and wait again before standing. That brief pause gives your cardiovascular system the time it needs to make the transition safely. Habit number 6, not drinking water within the first 30 minutes of waking. Your body has just spent 7 or 8 hours without a single drop of fluid. During sleep, you lose water continuously. Through every breath you exhale, through the moisture your skin releases. By the time you open your eyes in the morning, your blood is measurably thicker and more concentrated than it was when you went to sleep. This matters enormously for your heart. Thicker blood requires more force to pump through your vessels. And thicker blood means the platelets, the cells responsible for forming clots, are more densely concentrated and more prone to aggregating. That combination, thick blood plus elevated morning blood pressure plus concentrated platelets, is a significant contributor to why heart attacks and strokes are so much more common in the morning hours. A long-term analysis of data from the Atherosclerosis Risk in Communities cohort study, which followed more than 15,000 adults over a period of 25 years, found that chronic inadequate hydration was significantly associated with elevated cardiovascular disease risk and with accelerated cardiac aging. In 2022, the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute published findings showing that people who maintain adequate hydration across their lifetime have a measurably reduced long-term risk of developing heart failure. And here is the specific problem for adults over 60. The sensation of thirst diminishes significantly with age. Your body at 65 or 70 does not send the same urgent thirst signal that it did at 30. You can be genuinely dangerously dehydrated and feel no thirst at all. The fix is almost embarrassingly simple. Put a glass of water on your nightstand tonight. Before you check your phone tomorrow morning, before your first cup of coffee, before you stand up, drink that glass of water. It takes 30 seconds and it immediately begins reversing the overnight concentration of your blood. Habit number 5. Reaching for your phone or turning on the news within the first few minutes of waking. I know how automatic this has become. The phone is on the nightstand. You open your eyes. You reach for it. But here is what is happening inside your body at exactly that moment. During the first 30 to 45 minutes after waking, your brain is producing what researchers call the cortisol awakening response. This is a natural programmed surge of cortisol, your body's primary stress hormone, that rises sharply in the early morning hours. Under normal circumstances, this surge is healthy. It is your body's way of providing energy and mental focus for the day ahead. But cortisol is also the hormone responsible for elevating blood pressure, increasing heart rate, and priming your inflammatory response. And when you flood that already elevated cortisol window with alarming news headlines, urgent messages, or the passive scroll of social media, you amplify that stress response significantly. A comprehensive meta-analysis published in 2024 in a peer-reviewed cardiovascular journal synthesized data from 33 studies involving more than 43,000 participants. The finding was unambiguous. Individuals with chronically elevated stress hormone levels had a 63% higher risk of cardiovascular disease compared to those with lower levels. A separate 2022 study published in Psychoneuroendocrinology found that dysregulated cortisol patterns, specifically morning cortisol that spikes too high and does not return to baseline throughout the day, were independently associated with cardiovascular mortality after controlling for all other variables. Your morning cortisol window is a narrow, fragile biochemical state. Flooding it with stressful input is the equivalent of pressing the accelerator on a car engine that is already running at high RPM. Give yourself the first 30 minutes without a screen, without news, without demands. Let your nervous system complete its natural awakening arc. Your heart pressure, your heart rate, and your vascular inflammation markers will all benefit from that single change. Habit number 4, skipping breakfast or delaying it past 9 in the morning. I hear this from patients constantly. I am not hungry in the morning. I just have black coffee and I feel fine. I eat later and I do better. I understand the feeling. But the cardiovascular data on skipping breakfast is remarkably consistent across decades of research. A prospective study of 26,902 men enrolled in the Health Professionals Follow-Up Study, tracked over 16 years, found that men who skipped breakfast had a 27% higher risk of coronary heart disease compared to those who ate breakfast regularly. 27%, from a habit most people consider a minor lifestyle preference. A separate analysis drawing on data from nearly 61,000 adults followed for 17 to 23 years, published in the Journal of the American College of Cardiology, found that consistent breakfast skipping was associated with significantly higher cardiovascular mortality. And a landmark 2023 study published in Nature Communications, the Nutrinet Santé cohort, which examined more than 100,000 participants, found that simply having your first meal of the day after 9 in the morning was independently associated with a higher risk of cardiovascular events, particularly among women, compared to those who ate their first meal before 8. The mechanism behind this is tied directly to the morning cortisol and blood sugar cycle. When you have not eaten since the previous evening, your body interprets the extended fast as a stress state. Cortisol remains elevated, blood glucose fluctuates, insulin sensitivity is impaired. For adults over 60, whose metabolic regulation is already naturally less efficient, this prolonged morning fasting state compounds cardiovascular strain in ways that accumulate over months and years without producing symptoms until something serious occurs. You do not need a large meal. You do not need to force yourself to eat if you feel no hunger. Even something modest, a small bowl of oats, a handful of unsalted nuts, a hard-boiled egg, is sufficient to signal to your body that the overnight stress state has ended. If what I am sharing today is giving you a new perspective on your mornings, I want to invite you to leave a comment below right now. Tell me which of these habits you recognize in your own routine. I read every comment on this channel, and your responses genuinely shape the topics I choose to cover next. And if you have not subscribed yet, please do that now, because the video I am preparing next goes deep into the specific type of arterial inflammation that accelerates in adults over 60 during the morning hours, and how 2 specific foods can begin reversing it. That is information you will want. Habit number 3, exercising too intensely, too early, without a proper warm-up. Let me be very clear about something before I go further. Exercise is one of the most powerful tools available for cardiovascular health. Regular physical activity significantly reduces the risk of heart disease, stroke, and cardiac death. That is not in question. What is in question is the specific combination of intense exercise, early morning timing, and cold temperature. And the research on this combination is something every person over 60 should understand. A study examining data from the UK Biobank, one of the largest cardiovascular databases in the world, involving more than 86,000 participants and published in the European Journal of Preventive Cardiology, found that men who performed the majority of their physical activity during early morning hours had a statistically higher risk of developing coronary heart disease compared to those who were active at midday, after fully adjusting for intensity, duration, frequency, and baseline cardiovascular risk. The mechanism connects directly to the morning blood pressure surge I described earlier. If your blood pressure is already elevated during the morning window and you introduce intense physical exertion on top of that surge, you are compounding the cardiovascular demand significantly. Add cold temperatures, which cause vasoconstriction, narrowing the blood vessels and forcing the heart to pump against greater arterial resistance, and the risk increases further. A 2024 report from the American College of Cardiology confirmed that cold weather exposure is independently associated with elevated risk of myocardial infarction, with the effect being most pronounced in the first days of cold exposure and most significant in adults over 60. None of this means you should stop your morning walk. It means you should allow 30 to 45 minutes after waking before beginning exercise. It means spending 5 to 10 minutes doing gentle movement indoors first, light stretching, walking in place, slow arm circles, before stepping outside into the cold. The transition matters. The warm-up matters. Going from a cold bed directly into cold air and vigorous movement is a physiological stress pattern that your cardiovascular system at 60 does not handle the way it did at 40. Habit number 2, eating a high sodium or heavily processed breakfast. Most people associate sodium with dinner, salty restaurant meals, processed meats, canned soups. But breakfast is, quietly, one of the highest sodium meals in the average older adult's day, often without the person realizing it. Packaged cereals with hidden sodium, store-bought bread with more sodium per slice than most people would guess,